This episode is brought to you by Google Gemini. With the Gemini app, you can talk live and have a real-time conversation with an AI assistant. It's great for all kinds of things, like if you want to practice for an upcoming interview, ask for advice on things to do in a new city, or brainstorm creative ideas. And by the way, this script was actually read by Gemini. Download the Gemini app for iOS and Android today. Must be 18 plus to use Gemini Live.
If you don't have a basic framework to lead people through change, you're in trouble. That's your people, yeah? Because if you don't have a framework that allows you to generate ideas through your teams and get that engagement, you're in trouble. And if you don't know as a people leader how to handle an idea that's come to you from one of your team members or your staff, yeah, and you mishandle that, not to overextend this in terms of exaggeration, but that's slightly almost, and the business misses a great opportunity. That's almost sackable, right? So all these are the new skills of a people leader that need to be part of that continuous learning loop that are being asked of them more than ever before.
Welcome to the Manage Self, Lead Others Leadership podcast with Nina Sunday for experienced and aspiring people managers. This show will help you explore ways to become a more intentional leader. Each episode, host Nina Sunday speaks with some of the brightest business minds on the planet who share a passion to elevate and transform team culture. Workplace culture hides in plain sight. Is yours flourishing? Join the movement to make your workplace a better place to work. Are you ready? Because it's time to manage self, lead others.
This episode, it's my pleasure to welcome a longtime friend and colleague, John Prentice, founding partner and director at Change Enablement, driving cultural adaptation and improvement for the betterment of organisations. I've been involved with him for many years, leading change management inside organisations, and now through my association with John Prentice and his company, I'm now accredited in design thinking, and I'm so excited at the natural evolution of the facilitation that I can do either live online or face-to-face in Australia Pacific. This is a fireside chat where we just throw around a few ideas about what is the state of innovation today, especially post-COVID crisis, where we're now in recovery and where there are huge opportunities for innovation and growth. Over to our conversation. G'day, John Prentice.
G'day, Nina Sunday. Nice to be here.
Pre-COVID, I was pretty involved with your company, Change Enablement, with change management, and we have a long association over those years. And as natural evolution occurs, design thinking has something that's been on my radar for some years. And in fact, McKinsey & Co., which is a well-known consulting firm around the world, they talk about innovation in business and organizations is actually at a crisis point, because it's more important than ever, especially now that we're in recovery after COVID, post-COVID. Organizations more than ever have to take the opportunities that now exist with growth and a new vision for the future. So you want to comment on what the problem is with organizations not focusing on innovation and perhaps design thinking as a solution towards that?
Well, it's nothing better than a big open question like that, Nina, to get things started. Well, if I just step back from it all just a little bit, I think, if you just, you're right. We've been doing this for a while, but I don't know if you've just noticed recently that if you're on LinkedIn's for and watching the news out there, apparently it's the brand new thing that everybody needs to do, right? So, and that was if you were just watching it last week. I think the bit is, what it is that. You can't. The first thing is there's no change if there are no ideas.
That's right.
So
you've got to start with the idea.
You have to, right? So if we're lacking that, then we're the status quo remains, yeah. And in an environment where we're being challenged daily by messaging that comes out that says we need to be more productive. We need to adapt and adopt new technologies like AI, whatever that is, into our business processes. When we're looking at complex challenges that are coming towards us, both as businesses and organisations, but also personally, there's challenges and things are changing. How do we have a capacity to just for a little bit, just turn down the noise so we can go to a place where we can activate the creative side of our brains to find novel solutions to get us out of those situations. And from a business perspective, I think importantly, it's the lifeblood. Innovation and creativity is the lifeblood of progress.
And what I love about design thinking is you don't start with the idea and how can we make the best ice cream maker and put it in the market. You start with the question, the problem, and ideation is key. And too many times creative problem solving is looking at fast action to solve a problem instead of taking time to go deep with the problem. And design thinking has a marvelous way of asking a clarifying question, which starts with how might we? And you look at who is the user and what is the benefit. So rather than just saying what's the best product or best solution, you ask the question, you live with it for a little while and come up with an ideation process. You have lots of ideas. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and I think you can do that. You can do that in a training environment. You can do that short, fast, and quick, right? And so you'll get the impact of that. I think but I think if you sort of stretch that out into something a bit more strategic in an organisation, it's an inclusive sport. So you're going to have to. It brings organisations together in the sense that it brings all stakeholders to the table. And it's not just I came up with this idea and therefore that's what it shall be. Effectively, it's you want as many ideas as you can get, as you rightly said, and you want them to come from a variety of views and perspectives. Yeah, and in that itself is fostering that people-centric, that customer-centric, that human-centric personality and outcome that you're seeking to address. That is the problem that presents as opportunity.
What I was thinking about earlier when you said out of change, what's the point of change management if they don't have good ideas? Now, you've been a practitioner of change management for many years, longer than me, and because that's in fact how we met. When you were working with clients and their teams, did you notice that along the way, they would start questioning the solution that they were rolling out as their change solution?
Continuously.
Really? Because they hadn't done enough ideation at the start.
I think it can be sequential. Like we've got a good idea, we've got it to a point. Now we want to do it, and we'll need to project manage and change manage that through to fruition. Where my greater observation is that someone said we need a new system, whatever that is. So that whatever the limit of however crazy or how limited their view was in terms of why that was, strategically it was important. They needed to do that. I think it was within the change. I think it's within the transition where creativity is really required.
And there are 3 pillars that support 6 creative habits. And the first pillar is inspire new thinking and defining challenges and starting with a clarifying question, beginning with how might we? So do you want to just explain that a little? Because this is all part of a training process that can either be face-to-face or live online, going for as short as 90 minutes, but usually 2.5 hours. Is that right?
Well, there is a short form, high impact, micro credentialed variation that is really popular with lots of organisations and teams. In the sense that what it does is it gives you what you need quickly. You're right. Inspiring new thinking starts with really falling in love with a problem, and when we fall in love with a problem, the best way that we can decouple ourselves from the problem, so to speak, is to frame that problem up in the form of a question.
And I think in the little ebook that our accrediting company Experience Point have brought out, they mention a mop that I've never heard of, but it's actually a big seller, probably in the United States, but it's a big seller on Amazon. The Switter mop, Switter mop. By Procter & Gamble. I had a little look at it, and they just asked, how might we help users clean their floors more efficiently?
Right.
So they didn't start with how can we design a better mop? And that's the distinction, isn't it? You don't decide that the solution is the mop. You decide what is the function and who is going to benefit from it.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I think what it does is even if you have a good idea as a solution in your head,
yeah,
what it does is it litmus tests this and activates additional possibilities that you may not have considered. It may be that as you follow the bouncing ball and get to the end of the framework, that you were right at the beginning, and you were right at the end. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that you needed to discount a whole bunch of other alternatives that were out there. And I guess that creativity is a sort of that process, a framework. Falling in love with a problem, coming up with a question. Step number one is just unlocks that, so you don't miss something. And sometimes we can move that quickly that we can miss big strategic opportunities that were lying right there.
Yeah.
And as a result, we missed it.
Can you identify when you've worked with a company, I guess without naming names, but is there an opportunity that you've seen your group that you were leading come up with that was surprising for everybody?
I've worked with educational institutions that recognise that they'd got their courses wrong.
Oh.
I've worked with global supply chain providers who they needed to move some locations in terms of where they were sourcing materials from.
And what's good, what people don't know when they're inside a company is it an echo chamber? Is it groupthink? Are you all just operating on confirmation bias? This inspires new thinking, and that's the first pillar, which is great. And the second part of it is, when you're thinking about the user, you have to think about extreme users. You don't think about the average user. And what I find when people are thinking about solutions, they're usually thinking about the one that most people will employ. But to come up with the best idea, you think of the users at the other end of the continuum, the extreme users.
Yeah, I mean, marketers look for the middle point because that's where volume is.
Yes.
We're looking for extremes. And we're looking for out of the box type of thinking, and we're looking for something that's nuanced and new. When searching for new ideas, we really want to engage people that can bring that different perspectives into it. Those that are really passionate about it and have a deep understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve. And
that's right.
And but not to in any way discount those that have got absolutely no idea. Yeah, that until the problem was presented to them, they'd never encountered it before. But if it was them, that would be how they would see the world.
And that's where new markets come from.
That's where new markets come from. And now again, I think just in the, it's where, it's where businesses that are able to innovate and be creative, create these amazing spillover effects that, just one thing that changes something, even tweaks it or makes it better, or it's strategically different, has a ripple effect in terms of across a whole industry where other benefits are unlocked as a result of that tweak.
The Netflix example,
right.
Because if you think about if you're over a certain age, you might remember Blockbuster video stores, but historically, it was a retail, go to the store, get the DVD, take it home. So it was reliant on the local community. But then Netflix started mailing. So, of course, in the United States, mail order always was much bigger than it was in Australia. So they started doing mail order, but there was a bit of a delay. But then technology started maturing to the point where they could stream live, and they took off.
Mm.
It's a little bit like the story around Google. There were a lot of search engines. What was it? Something Alta Vista and different search engines before Google. But Google got the algorithm that said, we'll show ads that people are already indicating that they're searching for. They were able to connect the two, whereas before that it was just throw spaghetti at the wall banner ads.
Yeah.
So this is where the innovation of today becomes the historical landmark change of the future. And perhaps that's what you want your organisation or company, whoever's listening today, to be part of that story.
The thing is, sometimes it can be a bit scary, Nina. Like if we open this can of worms, it might cause us more problems than it's worth.
Right.
I tend to think that if we avoid having this conversation, what opportunities are we missing out on as a result of if we just stay in our lane, we'll be okay. And that may be true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should avoid the conversation of, if we were to, the how might we's in terms of, can we make something better? Yeah. Are there new things that are spawning off? Are there markets that are opening up for us, but we're not addressing them? Yeah. And if they're even in the infancy of it, even just starting the conversation, it doesn't necessarily have to be solved in 3 hours. It might just be that's asking the right question has activated the right thinking. And as a result of that journey can commence. And then I guess that's that. It can be compressed, or it can be deliberately elongated, in the sense that we're now having conversations in our business where people are freely coming up with ideas, and they're open and receptive to putting them in the hat. Yeah, knowing that not all of them will get up, but if we then pulled them all out, we've got this long list of options for ourselves that we've just created that allow us to now make some choices.
Well, exactly. And it's once you've started that design thinking process, it's very easy to then just tack on to the end of any meeting, or the beginning of any meeting, or the middle, a little 5 minutes talking about how can we progress the ideas that we've come up with to now. So it's about including a focus and a commitment to innovation on an ongoing basis.
And a simple one for leaders too, Nina. I think this is about engagement, and it is about getting people to feel comfortable that they're what's running through their head can be shared openly, and it's A, not going to be stolen, B, it's not going to be dismissed, C, it's not going to be mishandled, but more importantly, encouraged and supported. And in actual fact, if we're not doing this on a regular basis, if not just for organizational strategic stuff, just for our own team, then again, when leaders are missing out on opportunities to get engagement and buy-in from their own team members, from their own staff members, in terms of what's going on. The leaders don't need to come up with all the answers, but there's a whole crew of people around them that can that wisdom can be activated on.
And once you've ideated and got a ton of ideas, then it's about distilling it down to what is the best idea that we're going to move forward with, because the next step in design thinking, the third pillar, is to implement new ideas. And the first tactic is prototyping. Do you want to explain to the listeners exactly what prototyping is, especially in a business setting, because we're not always making physical products, are we? We're sometimes designing better ways to achieve a behavior
or a process. How you construct that could be simply just by drawing it on a piece of paper. and that allows us to now articulate and share that vision or that thought or that process with somebody else to actually get their buy-in, support around that as well too. And in the day-to-day, it could be, all right, that sounds good. Let's try it.
What I like about prototyping and using the four segments of the page, just
Storyboard.
four squares storyboard, is don't write words, picture it with stick figure humans, and that creates a different sort of thinking, neuroscientifically speaking as well, and it helps you visualize the process and inspires new thinking around it. And then, of course, the process then is to share that prototype with another. And there's actually a three-part approach to giving feedback. Isn't that right?
Well, I think the important thing about prototyping is it's about, even at an early stage, and that's what we're talking about, is it actually gets your message prepared in such a way that you are now ready to socialize it, not sell it, just I'm about to share it with somebody. A lot of the time, people just spurt ideas out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Expecting that the recipient of that news, who's only hearing it for the first time, will know what to do with it, or will hear in the words, visualize the same thing that the deliverer is actually saying. And often the two visions in each other's heads are not congruent with one another. So when you formalize your thoughts and prepare yourself for the share, whether that be through a storyboard type scenario or a mock-up or something like that, you draw the recipient into the conversation and they can see what you're seeing, right? Which allows them to now participate in the most crucial part, and that's feedback.
And constructive feedback.
Well, it's right here where it's dangerous, right? Because it's here where, generally speaking, a good idea in an early stage could get shot down if it's not treated or handled correctly. Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes it could sound like this, Nina. The last time someone did something like this, they're not here anymore. Yeah.
Oh boy. That is a real swamper, isn't it?
Well, especially if it's coming presented the same way the last time was presented as well too, which it sounded a little wacky, as opposed to, let me show you what I'm talking about by taking on that small, easy to pictorialize journey from where we are to what it could be. Yeah. And then, I guess, as you were alluding to, is being able to frame that conversation up properly by asking the recipient, the magical feedback componentry of I like, I wonder. And really, asking the participant and the recipient to work just a little bit harder and staying on your thought just for a little bit longer by identifying two things that they like about it. But also how the wonder being, how might they be able to how could we make it better?
Yes. So and that's right. And there's I don't like that idea.
Well, it's not dead yet. It's still alive.
Yeah, that's a killer.
It's still alive. And when it comes to why don't we try it? We can. And when we try it, we're not saying just do it for a day. Try it for a period of time. And then we come back and we can talk about what did we like about it and how do we make it better. And so to your iterative componentry, things that if we're liking it, we'll keep doing it. And if we can keep making it better, it will become better. And before we know it, it will be the way that we do things, because we left what we were doing and we became what we are doing. And I think that, I think that's where the dynamicness of it all is it doesn't have to be formal for it to evolve. But there may well need to be some formality of it and support of it once it gets to a certain stage.
And, you just have to put one foot in front of the other, take one step at a time, continuously improve as you go, take on board, I wonder, suggestions without allowing people to shoot it down in flames, just take it step by step. And suddenly, I just love what you just said, which is you leave what you were and become what you now are. Something like that. I love that. So,
I mean, and there is change, right? The process diffuses the fear component and opens up the fun component.
And it beautifully fits into this whole philosophy of continuous improvement and Kaizen. Kaizen says, that's the Japanese term for making good change, is that people aren't there to just do a job. They're also there to improve how the job is done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing about design thinking, it's not about doing the same job a little bit better. Sometimes it can open up whole brand new evolutions. And so there's incremental change, but there's also, well, I can say disruptive change, but maybe quantum leap change. It might be a better term.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't know until you ask. If you don't ask, the answer's already no.
And I think if you don't, as a leader, don't put the challenge to your group and let them and engage them through that process, they'll be waiting for you to tell them the answer, as opposed to the answer already exists within the group.
Yes.
Yeah? And a design thinking approach and an embracing of creativity allows you, and asking the right question just simply unlocks all of that very quickly and gets those resources working at full capacity rather than almost full, just waiting for you because you must know all the answers because you're the boss.
And an earlier episode in Manage Self, Lead Others is with Rod Collins, and his book is Nobody is Smarter Than Everybody. And the beautiful thing about that is that design thinking and creativity and innovation is a group team process. It's not just the realm of the leader, and a good leader will actually open up the team and treat them adult to adult, not parent to child.
And you can't do any of this if in the latter, if you in my way or the highway.
Yeah. Yep. So it's about really a leadership that is taking advantage of the collective wisdom. Well, how can people reach us to find out more about doing a design thinking process, either live online anywhere in the world or locally in Australia, or you actually go to Southeast Asia, I believe?
Well, we're Asia Pacific, and we're all through there. You've been enabled to lead groups and organisations through this process.
And one of the questions I've started asking people at the end is, what's something new that you're excited about? And I just want to say, if I ask myself that question, I'm excited about design thinking and delivering those. Well, it can be as short as an hour, but really about 2 hours, 2.5 is about right. And face-to-face or icebreaker for a conference. I do conference speaking. I can tack on an icebreaker as part of it. So there's lots of opportunities there. Yeah,
you won't go wrong with that. But I think more importantly, I think for those that are listening, Nina, I think every business needs to take a step back and have a good creative look at itself. And
it's not just business; it's government departments and government any enterprise.
Small, medium, large, government, non-government. We've all got problems. There's no shortage of that. There's no drought on those. But when you've got a simple to use, easy to follow, repeatable framework that you can do by yourselves, then you're in really good nick and in good shape for those future problems that will come, but today's problems that need to be addressed.
I have a feeling I'm going to go back to all the people we delivered change management to and say, hey, how are you going? I think we've got a better tool.
Or you've got the next one. So I think that's
the next one
that will start to take shape, not overnight, but it'll be incremental. The sharing of ideas becomes a habit, and that habit is a really important one when looking for competitive advantages and other opportunities that exist for growth or to make things better.
Thank you, John Prentice. It's been a delightful fireside chat with you today. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Nina. It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
I hope you enjoyed this fireside chat with John Prentice, who has been, in many ways, my mentor and sponsor in becoming accredited in design thinking. I feel that this is the next evolution of my company, Brainpower Training, and me personally as a presenter. I mean, I do great workshops in leadership and communication and productivity, but design thinking has always had a bit of an edge. And I remember saying to someone 10 years ago, my greatest love would be to deliver innovation training, but I just never really, I didn't feel it was right for me to just create my own program. But now that I'm accredited in a program that is the best of the best, I put it to you that Experience Point Innovation Aware is the best of the best, high impact, short duration workshops that generates a ton of ideas, but also people will walk out with the best idea selected that they want to move forward with. And isn't that what we want? It's like when you're doing change, a change initiative, always look for the second right answer, because sometimes people just do knee-jerk answers that are safe, that you've done in the past, that doesn't ruffle any feathers. And maybe what you really need is something that's a little bit disruptive, a little bit energetic, a little bit that gets your juices flowing, and that people can rally behind and go, yes, this can really make a difference. I want to make a difference in the world, and I think design thinking is one way to do it. Thanks for listening. Tell me what you think. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and see you next time.
Nina Sunday is on a mission to help leaders transform culture. To book Nina Sunday CSP to speak at your conference, visit ninasunday.com to request a proposal. Nina travels from Brisbane, Australia for in-person presentations Australia-wide. Twice certified virtual presenter, Nina Sunday presents virtually, globally, for any time zone.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.